Hi guys, welcome back. We would like to look at the risk associated with the software development. Identifying the risk is also extremely important, and then address those risks is even more important, right? So now let's look at, could you please tell me now, you think about it, what is the highest risk of any software development? Remember, who are the most important people for the system? Users, right? So we develop the system for the users. If the users are not happy, our new system will be retired very, very fast. So remember, that's very important here. The highest risk is the users do not feel comfortable with the system. Users do not like with the system. How can we address that? Remember, we have done the requirement phase number 2. In the requirement phase, we get the feedback from the users, right? Then we try to implement it. Now, let me tell you guys some examples. Some examples that we always use it. Windows is something that we always use it. Remember, there were 2 failures of Windows operating system. One is Windows Vista, other one is Windows 8. Of course, Microsoft is a leading software developer. They have been producing amazing software for many years to come. Still, they make mistakes. The main reason they make mistake is the technology team, IT team, have an idea, fantastic idea, to make Windows operating systems much better. But the mistake they have made was they did not do too much of requirement. That means they didn't try to get the feedback from the users. Even though there are a pack of new features available in their new operating systems, but the user interface was not familiar to the users, and users didn't like it. They struggle a lot to be familiar with the new operating system. As a result of that, you could remember that Windows 8 retired very, very fast. Windows Vista was not well taken. So this is very important. So this is a very good 2 examples that we have it, that we need to do the requirement definition phase for a while. We need to communicate with the users, and remember that before we implement the system, we should do the final user acceptance test. That means let users to feel about the system, and they should feel comfortable with the system. That's extremely important. Otherwise, no matter how much time, how much effort you made for new system development, no matter how much pack of features that you have it for the users, system may not last long if the users don't like it, right? Now we look at what are the other risks associated with system application development, okay? So the previous one that I said that it's a problem of the IT people who develop the system, right? They didn't give enough time for the users. Then we are looking at a issue, a problem or risk comes from the user themselves as well. So even though we give them time for about 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month for the requirement phase, for them to give us the requirement they need, what are the expectations they want, and for the senior management, then we move on. Then we are going to design phase, we are going to selection phase, and then implementation phase, development phase, so on and so forth. Once we are after we move out from the requirement phase, when we are in the development and implementation phase, sometimes users say that, sorry, I would like to have this feature. Management say that, okay, could you please add this module? Could you please add this feature? So this is very common. We call it as a scope creep. That means we are keep adding different modules, different functionalities to the system. By doing so, definitely it's going to be high risk for the system. So usually remember that we usually do not entertain unless that it seems to be very important. Sometimes we might need to change. Remember the government regulations. In the middle of our system development, government regulation changed. So in that case, we have no choice. Remember, when it comes to government regulation, that is a situation where we don't have a choice. In that case, even though the system production or maybe implementation time will be longer, so we might need to add those features for sure. So that's something very important here. What are the other risks associated with this system development? So we have what we call project risks. What are those? We have within the project, with suppliers, within the organization, and with the external environment. Now first look at within the project. Can you think about any risk associated with within the project? Okay, so I can come up with around two risk. First one is that when you develop the system, we don't follow the guidelines. We don't follow the proper system development methodology, and your approach is not a good one. Okay. At the same time, we didn't do good project management. So those are the risks associated with the with system development within the project. So that's something probably we need to be very careful. The second one with the suppliers, because when we do system development, what we would do is we might outsource. We might do part of the system development by ourselves. Some modules we might outsource it. So if you outsource it, then they have to give us the proper modules the way that we would like to have it. So that means sometimes those outsource parties do not provide us the modules that's supposed to be in timely manner. Sometimes the quality is not good, they are not reliable. So that is often time that we have a risk associated with the suppliers as well. So the next one is within the organization. So what are the risks associated with within the organization? Can you think about it? Yeah, so the biggest risk what we see is within the organization is one of the senior manager, probably CEO, thinks that, okay, let's have this new project. This is something important. This is my strategic future. That's what I want to go. This is something that helpful for my for the future of our organization. And then in the middle of system development, the senior management change. New CEO comes in. But when the new CEO comes in, new CEO thinks that no, this is not the way that I would like to drive my organization. So I want to have a different approach. So this system, even though started and developing it, may not meet what I would like to have it in the future. So that could be highest risk or biggest risk for the system development within the organization. The last one with external environment, that we don't have much of the choice or much of the control. So the first one is we call competitors. Say for example, we are the supermarket. We are developing a new system for our own supermarket, and we have our competitors. In the middle of our system development, our competitors are developing even much better. That users most likely we think that could be much liker than what we are developing now. So then the competitors are developing something much better. So in that sense, it's going to be a big risk for us, because if we know that our system may not be as good as them, so it's not good for your organization. The next one we call economic condition. Sometimes when we start developing systems, there's economic downturn comes in. So in the last like 10-15 years, we see that several economic downturns. So in that case, organizations are trying to save money. So when they try to save money, so if the new system development is not very critical one to the organization, they might stop for a while, because it's the difficult time. They need to save as much as possible. Right. And then third one is change regulation. As I mentioned to you before, in the middle of the system development, regulation changed and your system is not comply with the regulation. That could be an issue. The last one is the change the customer preference. As I mentioned to you before, while we are developing system, customer preference changed. So that could be a biggest risk again with the new system development. So these are the basic risk. So this is something that we need to be aware of it before we develop the system, and how can we reduce those risks. So the best way to reduce the risk is, remember that we have done the requirement and feasibility studies. So we should spend a lot of time for the requirement phase. We should make sure that we communicate with all the users within system, senior management, your IT people, maybe your employees. That's very important. And then do the feasibility study as well. And then we can look back and see our post implementation review as well. So that's how we look at it. So looking at the risk is extremely important for any system development, because when it's comply with the compliance and assurance issues, that's very important. That's very important even in fintech area. So that's something that we got to be extremely careful. All right, guys, see you soon.